Welcome back to Cannabis Coast to Coast News. This is the C Block, our final section of our weekly news show. I'm Alaina Pinto. If you haven't downloaded our free PCMTV app, you should, since it's the easiest way to keep up with the news of the industry every week. You can use the QR code on the screen to take you right to the App Store or Google Play. Next up in our state reports is New York State, where that state's Office of Cannabis Management has created a guide to banking and cannabis-friendly credit unions for the industry. It's called the Cannabis Banking Directory, and the idea was to increase access to financial services that are cannabis-friendly. Coming off the saga of the debanking hearing from last week, it's certainly a step forward that some financial institutions are softening their approach to cannabis. However, there are only 10 banks listed in the entire state of New York in this guide. Going out on a limb here, but I bet there are more than that in the state. In fact, in 2023, the total was over 1,900 banks and credit unions. And get this, there are over 500 financial institutions in New York City alone. So kind of puts it in perspective for you, the challenges the industry continues to have with banking and the need for that safer banking reform that was once considered low-hanging fruit for our elected officials who continue to make it as difficult as possible for this industry to survive. Next up, it's Kimmie Cannabis in Oklahoma, where two of their Republican senators have introduced legislation that would ban cannabis businesses from a tax break on the 280E clause, even if the plant medicine gets moved from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. Langford issued a press release this week stating his prohibitionist spin on why he is doing this. His quote was, "Businesses who sell federal illegal drugs, including marijuana businesses, shouldn't get federal tax breaks. This bill clarifies federal tax law to make sure a federally illegal product does not have a federally legal tax deduction." End of that quote. Despite this kind of representation, Oklahoma has a vibrant medical program, but it is still illegal for adults to use cannabis without a medical card. Here's Kimmie Cannabis.
I am Kimmie Cannabis from Can I Talk About It with the Oklahoma Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. In recent legislative developments, Oklahoma House Bill 1750, which sought to prohibit pregnant women from using medical marijuana, is officially dead after facing heavy pushback from the public. The bill, introduced by Representative Anthony Moore, aimed to criminalize cannabis use during pregnancy, even for those with a valid medical marijuana license. Critics argued it could discourage women from seeking prenatal care and unfairly target vulnerable communities. The bill's failure highlights the tension between medical autonomy and legislative overreach in Oklahoma's evolving cannabis laws. Meanwhile, U.S. Senator James Langford has made headlines by doubling down on his opposition to easing financial burdens on cannabis businesses. He recently stated that he does not support allowing cannabis businesses to claim tax deductions, emphasizing that illegal drug sellers should not benefit from federal tax breaks. But here's the reality. Cannabis businesses already cannot claim standard tax deductions. They file under Section 280E, a federal tax code that prohibits deductions for businesses trafficking Schedule 1 substances, including cannabis. Langford's comments confirm there's no intention to change that, even as talks around federal rescheduling continue. A reminder that financial relief for Oklahoma's cannabis businesses is nowhere in sight. That's it for this week's Oklahoma Cannabis Update. I'm Kimmie Cannabis with Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Peace, love, and all that good stuff.
Now in its third year of adult use sales, the state of Missouri continues to be one of the United States' most stable businesses. However, it's not without some growing pains, as Brandon Jones explains in his Missouri Cannabis Report.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones with B Green Distribution with Missouri Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News, live from the Tree Lounge. And yes, I'm here with the founder, owner, and the guy that runs the day-to-day operations, oversees pretty much everything, my buddy, Hollis Tatum. Thanks, man, for joining me.
How you doing? How you doing? Hollis, Boneyard Munchies. Not actually the owner, but the owner of Boneyard Munchies. It's the Tree Room KC. This is where we at, 1820 McGee, Kansas City, Missouri. You know, come chill, hang out, catch a new vibe with us.
And if you don't know the Kansas City area, 18th and 20 in McGee basically is downtown Kansas City. You can walk to tons of different restaurants, lots of places around here. If you want to go check out the city, you're not too far from T-Mobile and Power and Light. So we're in the heart of Kansas City. This isn't some place on the outskirts where you have to go hide and find like hidden on GPS to get to. This is right in the heart of Kansas City where people can come. Like we had a Valentine's Day event, Super Bowl watch party.
Yes,
there's a birthday party pass here.
Just about a little mix of any and everything that you could think of. We're trying to make a new home base for the floats, you know what I'm saying? So we have birthdays, holidays, special events, game days, just a little mix of everything, really.
And we have lots of the licensed facilities that are looking places to, have for their staff to be able to kind of relax and have parties and do like things like that. Like Timeless was here last night, right?
Yes, sir. The Timeless event, a couple of corporates that come out, they have their private events, agent card only. We support the business because they support us.
And then here you have pool tables, games.
Yep, a little mix of everything. Arcade games, pool tables, foosball, console gaming, and just about once you pay to get in, everything is free after that.
Like live DJs come in here and perform. So you got different artists from Kansas City that come out here. Like tonight, there's local artists performing.
We have Bandosius, K-Town, YGKC, the three-headed monster group, one of the good locals that's out here doing good music and business.
Yeah, so not only are we promoting the safe use of medical cannabis, a place where you can consume, where you're going to be amongst friends and other people that believe in the same kind of things and use this as medicine, but you can enjoy lots of games, local music, and it's a place for the artists to feel safe, to know that they can consume as well when they're performing instead of having to have the issues of dealing with all the venues as well. So the artists, I'm sure, love to perform here too.
Yes, and that's one of the biggest things that we push off is making sure that everyone feels safe, you're of age, and no one is doing more than what's needed. So
how did Boneyard Munchies and you kind of get started in the industry?
Really, it started off as a good little hobby until we noticed the actual effects that it was having on certain people. It's hard to come around and how it benefited the body more. So we added the sweets and fun together with the medical, and now we're here.
Yeah, right here at the Tree Lounge, Kansas City. So like I said, there are lounges here, and how it works is you have to have an agent ID card or play a daily membership.
Yes.
To get in, you obviously have to be of age and ID. And there are, I know of at least 4 lounges, but this is the only one in Kansas City that I really know that's doing it kind of like this. I know there's another event that's going to start to have music around here, but not a daily membership lounge, kind of like we have consumption here. Yeah. I know in Rolla, there's Doobies. In St. Louis, the 314 lounge or the office. And then Brennan England has, what is that one called? Oh, man, he's going to kill me. But Brennan England also has another great spot in St. Louis for cannabis consumption lounges here. So I'm Brandon Jones here with Hollis Tatum for B Green Distribution, the Missouri Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Thanks a lot. Stay medicated and educated. Have a great week.
Next up, it's our weekly check-in on the publicly traded stocks in the cannabis industry with Doug Miller, who is always high on Wall Street.
The Chicago Atlantic BDC closed a $100 million secured revolving credit line led by a Federal Deposit Insurance Corp. With no current debt outstanding, the credit facility provides us with significant liquidity and flexibility to grow the company's portfolio as we seek to capitalize on the robust lending opportunities in the originations pipeline. Scott Gordon, Chicago Atlantic's BDC's executive chair and co-chief investment officer, said in a statement. If you remember, this specialty lender took the name Chicago Atlantic BDC back in October when Silver Spike Investment Corp closed on a portfolio of loans. So let's see how the stock chart looks. It trades under the stock ticker LIEN. It is trading around $12.23, and it's been running up. So watch for any pullback, but it is bullish and it looks good. So keep your eye on this one. And that's this week's Cannabis Stock Report. Reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News, I'm Doug Miller.
Hi, I'm Christina Brisson with Over the Top Renovations with your weekly Ohio Cannabis Report with Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Last week I mentioned Governor DeWine and the proposed changes he was wanting to make, and in his new budget he's suggesting that we increase the tax on adult use cannabis and then turn around and use that money to build jails and police training instead of using it for the various community funds. This as Ohio sales exceed over $319 million. But in other good news, this last weekend at a Cincinnati suburban farmers market, they had 30 vendors set up, and you're allowed to buy seeds, immature plants, and clones. Hope to see more of that to come. Thank you. I'm Christina Brisson with your weekly Ohio Cannabis Report with Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
In Willow Creek, Rory, renowned for birdwatching, embraced nature's elegance. Preparing for his woodland sojourn, he used grape-focused THC mist from Yellow Labs. Each spritz honed his senses, capturing avian beauty. Immersed in the forest symphony, Rory's lens froze vibrant moments. Emerging at twilight, gratitude filled him for the mist's clarity. Recalling Find Yellow Labs near you, Rory ordered more of his mist from
Next up, the state of cannabis in the Bay State of Massachusetts. Chris Faraone is one of the most respected journalists in this state. His weekly Talking Joints memo is always filled with up-to-date information, and Chris's passion for the cause does not interfere with his writing. This week, PCMTV founder Kimmie Young talks with Chris about the multiple lawsuits that have been filed by the industry, including a testing lab suing other testing labs, and the ongoing squabble between the state treasurer, Deborah Goldberg, and former commission chair, Shannon O'Brien, the ongoing developments of a new class of licenses allowing some kind of social consumption, and more. All of this is part of Chris's and Jimmie's discussion. Here is just an excerpt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm PCMTV founder Kimmie Young. So happy to be joined by a friend from the Massachusetts area. His name is Chris Faraone. He puts out a newsletter every week called the Talking Joints Memo. And if you have not subscribed, I urge you to do it because this guy covers cannabis fairly. Is that fair? Are you happy with that? Because I actually believe that, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in objectivity. I just believe in being thorough, real frankly. I try. It's every decision we make is subjective. I try to make the subjective decision to include a lot of information.
Right, and you're human, so that that's a good thing. Last time I checked, you're human, right? Anyway.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So this week, I love the lead lawsuits everywhere, Massachusetts. This is one of the reasons why when people ask me what should I invest in the cannabis space, I go a good law firm because in either side, right? Absolutely. Here's the one that intrigues me the most: the two fields that were adjacent to each other, right? And one had pesticides in it, and those pesticides ended up moving over onto the cannabis crop, and the cannabis crop got flagged, right? Isn't that right? That's the gist.
That's right. And, the lawsuit is, when we write about lawsuits and when we speak about them on podcasts, we're very careful, of course, and innocent until it's not guilty. It's civil court, but, innocent until proven not innocent. At the same time, this lawsuit filed by a Westfield, Massachusetts grower, not quite all the way in the western part of the state, but, I think it's in the Pioneer Valley. I know people from out there will correct me on the specs, but nevertheless, it's a small grow that has not put product to market in a couple of years, is suing its neighbor. It's a strawberry farm, Norse Farms, and there's a lot of documentation that comes with this lawsuit. And the documentation basically shows that I don't know what the culpability is, but to the extent that it happened, yes. I mean, so there are certain pesticides, and this that can be used in a strawberry grow that cannot be found in your tests, your residual or your testing of your cannabis crop in Massachusetts. Yeah. And it's caused them apparently, allegedly $17 million in damages. They're not going to be able to put a crop out this year. They're stuck with all this fresh frozen. It's a disaster. And it really goes to show the bottom line here is that outdoor growers, which in my opinion, we should be encouraging outdoor grows. I'm wearing a number 9 sunflower. Coastal cultivars, they are an advertiser of ours, but they're also one of my favorite spots. They're growing under the sun. Nothing against indoor grows. My point is, life is made pretty difficult for the outdoor grows. As far as there are some pesticides, natural pesticides, not DDT, but natural pesticides that you're allowed to use in one regard, but then they can't be part of your testing afterwards. You'll have to get someone on a lot smarter than me to really break that down. But I know we only have short time here anyway. So the point is, this is only, this is adding another layer. It appears to be an unprecedented lawsuit, at least in Massachusetts, of the contamination from the neighboring non-cannabis crop. So we'll see what happens, and your heart just breaks for a business like this that hasn't been able to put product to market.
Absolutely. And now, does it beg the question, does that mean that our food supply allows the pesticides, but our cannabis side is testing more strictly for things like that?
Right? So listen, I'm a guy who is not big on, I'm not like some libertarian nut job, but I don't love all the regulations. I think we've been smoking weed forever, and I wish it was just right. But living in the world that we do live in, yes. I mean, Jimmy, Massachusetts has some of the most unbelievably strict regulations, especially for things like residual solvents for vapes and things like that. So people can really be rest assured. At the same time, some of the restrictions it's not just that they're strict, they're really unreasonable and not well done, according to experts. And that's where there are a lot of problems that are leading to some of the other stuff I'm sure we'll talk about today. But this lawsuit really just shows that there's problems.
Yeah, lab shopping is a problem, and it's because these restrictions, this is a residual effect of these restrictions, because, right?
Well, lab shopping, it's also related to testing, and that, and lab shopping is related to testing standards. Now, the testing standards on pesticides, and on some of the contaminants, yes, that there's basically, if we're going to separate testing into two categories, there's testing for all the bad stuff, and then there's testing for potency. Now, this other lawsuit we're talking about, the Framingham-based MCR Labs, which also has facilities in other states, is suing 8 other ITLs, independent testing labs, saying that they cheat on their tests for all of these other things, for potency and for things like heavy metals and everything. Why do they do this? Allegedly, and well, if they were to do it, the reason is because people want, it makes their value of their crop higher.
They're willing to pay for better results, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically paying for better results, but it's not just better. On the potency side, certainly it's better results. On the contamination side, and it is, and on the total yeast and mold side, in some cases it is to pass things that should not be passed. And we're not going to get into names necessarily of brands, but this whole past week has been an absolute disaster in Massachusetts cannabis, with some of the parties named in the lawsuit also having products recalled by the state telling Talking Joint's Memo that they were not reacting to this lawsuit. So what we're seeing now is basically the culmination of a lot of mess that people who know this stuff have predicted. I'm just a reporter. Not trying. I'm a reporter. I've written it, but I've written other people saying it. It's not me saying it. I'm a dummy. They had to burn the school down to get me out of chemistry class. I am relying on the experts here. And when you read, if you look at a lot of this data, I don't know if the defendants in this case are to blame. I'm just saying that clearly things are out of whack. The standards are not, they really don't appear to be very thorough standards. And this is where it's led to a bunch of lawsuits in an industry that's already hurting.
The entirety of that interview will be available on our website at procannabismedia.com and on our PCMTV app, of course. That'll do it for this week's edition of Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm Alaina Pinto. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Consume it responsibly. We'll see you next week.
I think I messed up. Did you know there's a place that covers all the cannabis news you need? Welcome to Pro Cannabis Media, your go-to for all things cannabis. PCM is the CNBC of weed, bringing you the latest news and talk shows with a twist. We've got 16 state correspondents and multimedia journalists from around the US and Canada.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones with Bee Green Distribution with the Missouri Cannabis Report.
I'm Karen Black from Green Finger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report.
I'm Amy Carter from Michigan Weedsters.
Andrew Behringer here reporting from Washington, D.C.
Debbie Fazy with the Canadian Toke of the Week.
It all started back in 2018 when founder Jimmy Young kicked off the In the Weeds podcast. His mission? Documenting the fight to end cannabis prohibition. Fast forward to today and we've got Cannabis Coast to Coast with Alaina Pinto, delivering the nation's only TV-style cannabis news show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Cannabis Coast to Coast, PCMTV's weekly roundup of industry news from California to New York. I'm Alaina Pinto.
As of August 2024, PCM has racked up over 1.2 million views and 14.5 million impressions on our YouTube channel. With 15,000 subscribers and growing, our reach is spreading like wildfire. PCM's website, YouTube, Rumble, Discord, Roku, Twitch, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and even our very own PCMTV app. Get your cannabis news fix with Pro Cannabis Media. We're here to keep you informed and entertained. Stay tuned and stay lifted.